Hello, welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about the value of customer data today. So the overall agenda today is we're going to do a quick intro, then talk about customer-based corporate valuation, which is really technical word for quite a technical thing. But this is going to explain the underlying model behind why we think there's value in data. Then we're going to talk about how to calculate customer lifetime value, then how to collect first-party data. Then we'll give you some tips on conversion levers, and then also talk about how to monetize the data, which is really the meat and kind of the reason why companies do it. But you've got to do this in an ethical way. So we'll be touching on a lot of different aspects of first-party data, and really starting with understanding why it's valuable. My name is Robin Leonard. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AFDigital. I'm 6 times Salesforce certified, and I've got many more certs that I'm planning to get. I'm also on the Salesforce Marketing Cloud Partner Advisory Board, which is a global board that meets once a year in the US, and it has about 12 members on it, all from different partners around the world. And many of them are big brands that you would have heard of, like Deloitte and Publicis, for example. So, that's a really proud position that we have. My background prior to working in AFDigital was ex-IBM lead BA slash agile PM. So, and then prior to that was a Vodafone CRM BA. BA is a business analyst, which is my favorite career path, if I can be honest. So yeah, very much a business analyst. It's kind of management consultant, project manager, with a telco background, but I've worked in a lot of different industries, and I've done a lot of CRM as well. That's really my background. Please do follow me if anyone is on Twitter, Robin_AFD. I'm still there. Otherwise, Instagram by the same name. So just a little bit about AFDigital. We're a Salesforce implementation partner. We're really here to help companies connect their data, automate their business processes, and build smarter customer journeys. We specialize across the cloud, so we're a multi-cloud partner, which makes us unique. So we specialize in sales, service, marketing, and community cloud. Our ISV partners, we've got a whole range of ISV partners, depending on the need, but it is very important because you also make some of these selections, and it's important that your partner is familiar with these products. So our value proposition is really, on the left, is really around advisory. So this is making sure that you're doing the right things, that advice and not making mistakes up front can be invaluable. We also help with implementations, so transformation projects. We'll help you rapidly go live with your Salesforce licenses so you can start getting value. And then we have Team X, which is a managed service or a hybrid managed service product. And that's really there to help clients with not only their Salesforce tech support, but also their marketing operations and ongoing agile development of the platform. So that's really there to help our customers grow and to nurture them to be successful. Salesforce is not a kind of 6-month project. It's really a lifelong journey, and there's a lot of IP shared between partners and customers. So how we typically work with customers is we would start with a health check to understand the current state. Then we integrate the different systems. That's usually a source of a lot of frustration in any organization, is when systems don't talk to each other. Then we power on your licenses, and often you will have features that are just unutilized because they haven't been turned on. So we'll help you turn on those licenses rapidly. We'll also provide some training and enablement so that your team are ready to use the software. And then we move into Team X. And we may also have ongoing custom projects after the first one. And the Team X is really support, admin, marketing operations, and technology operations. So, and this marketing ops is really part of our DNA. We started off our life as a digital marketing agency, and now we're a full-on multi-cloud marketing technology partner. So, it's quite different, but still the same roots. We've still got creatives in our business. Here's an article about our Salesforce Partner Advisory Board appointment. We got a little press. I said, I feel great. It's really cool. I think I should have maybe prepared more for that interview, but that was my genuine feeling. So that was great. Here's some logos that are our customers over the past 8 years. And you can see a lot of logos there. You can see some groupings that are bigger than others, like travel, events, hospitality, retail and e-com, NFP, healthcare, property, FinServ. There's a lot that we've dabbled in, but we've really started developing a lot of core industries. Quite extensive. Great. Okay, so now let's talk about customer-based corporate valuation. This is really the basis for everything that we're going to be discussing today. So I often talk to my customers about these companies, like Uber and Twitter, that aren't really profitable. If you look at them like a traditional business, they're not on paper so great looking, but when you value them with investors investing in them, they are worth billions and billions of dollars. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why would investors think there's value in companies that are not profitable or not making much money, or they don't have great revenue streams, but they have great data streams or data sources? So this is the question, and this makes you wonder. So I did some research about a year ago, and I found that Wharton Student has cracked it. This guy, Daniel McCarthy, he's also got a partner, Peter Fader, and these guys have really released this great research from Wharton University they've been doing around custom-based corporate valuation. So what it means is we traditionally used to value a corporation based on its operating assets plus its non-operating assets minus its net debt. So operating assets are things that make money, like your sales operations, your marketing, your blah, blah, blah. Your non-operating assets are your real estate, things that don't really make money. They're just kind of sitting there. They're worth something though, but they're not revenue generating. And then net debt is all your liabilities and obligations, etc. So the future that these Wharton PhD students or professors, I think, are proposing is that we start to consider customers as part of these operating assets. So because we didn't actually do that before, we would look at the revenue, the historical revenue, and those kind of things, whereas we didn't look at the actual customer data and the customer spend likelihood, which is what these guys have proposed. So, and what they did is, and just going back to this, is they actually, they did analysis based on publicly available data and found that their method of valuation using customer lifetime value modeling, which I'll go through in a minute, was more accurate than the actual analyst that had valued it, prior to the IPO or whatever. There is a link here, and I highly recommend anyone that's interested in learning about this is just watch this video. It's intensely technical and detailed, but it really just explains it. It's like, oh wow, okay, yep, no, correct. Not going to argue with Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Fader here. So this is the key point that you've got to take away. So how does it work? If you look at a customer lifetime, you've got a user or a subscriber or a customer, and it doesn't work for all businesses, but for subscription type businesses or businesses with repeat purchase, it does work. So you've got the user of that service, They go through activation, free trial maybe to get them on board. There's a value exchange. And then you've got a first purchase $50 and then they renew twice and then they don't renew. And that's a churn. So you could say that's $150 lifetime value. That's a fairly simplistic formula for it, but that really describes the customer lifetime value. It's how much money can I expect to get from a customer during their life with me as my customer from the start to the end. Simple. So going into the next step, let's talk about how to calculate that, because obviously I just showed you that was a very simple formula. There's something a little bit more complex. And this is one variation. I want to emphasize that this isn't necessarily the only way to do it. Some different business models necessitate other models, and I just encourage you to do the research and to Google it, and make sure that you pick a model that's going to make sense to your business and to the internal stakeholders. So if you look at these metrics, there's 5 key metrics that we need to consider: transaction frequency per year, average transaction value, average customer tenure, so how long will they stay as a customer from start to finish, acquisition cost, and retention cost. So how much am I willing to spend to get them, and how much am I willing to spend to retain them? And this is where there's different variations, probably around the retention costs. You can also calculate churn in a slightly different way, but this will do. It's a rough number. So if you look at the actual formula, customer lifetime value equals frequency times transaction value times tenure minus acquisition cost minus retention costs. Okay, so that's 24 times 10 times 3. So that's kind of the customer lifetime value without cost. So whatever that works out to be, maybe 750 something, minus 25 minus 10. So this is the fixed retention or acquisition retention cost. So that gives us a number. And how you figure this out is relatively arbitrary. And I don't want to downplay the value of this formula. It's more in that this is a working number. This is a target. This is an understanding of what you think it could be. You can also model it out based on actual data. So, and as long as you are tracking all of these things, then you can actually look at your real data and say, what is our customer lifetime value? What is our actual customer lifetime value? So that's the ideal state, is to track the reality. But if you don't have those things at hand, then doing this. Another thing to consider is this persona, this person, may have a very different customer lifetime value to a different type of customer. So you may have a B2B customer that spends $1 million a year with you, and that's a totally different one to a B2C customer, which is maybe more likely to spend $100 a year with you. And if you have both channels going, obviously you just have to be pragmatic about how you model this. You may want to choose 3 personas, and based on your known segments, and understand what their lifetime value is. So we'll get into talking about why it's good to understand what your lifetime value is here. So if you, and this is my Google search, how much of your customer lifetime value should you spend to acquire a customer? And you can see out of 181 million results, this is the number, the card that came up. The best rule of thumb is spending 33% or less of your customer lifetime value. Great, 33% or less. So if my customer lifetime value is $500, then it's $150. I did my math correctly. $1,000, it's 333. Yeah, so I didn't do my math correctly, but you get the picture. So let's move on. So once we've got this customer lifetime value number, the 685, we can pivot around this number. So and you can see here on the left corner, 226, that's 33% of 685. I'd pre-done my maths there. So 685 we pivot around. That's what a customer's worth. Let's assume that 5% of subscribers convert to customers each year, for example. So if we have a 5% conversion rate, then our subscriber is worth $34.25. So because you're working backwards, 5% of 685 is $34. So I can now value a subscriber even if they haven't bought anything from me, because I can statistically achieve this 5% number. So that's the key, is you can't just guess this number. You actually have to have a working metric to say, I've got a target to convert 5% of my subscribers into customers. And if I can regularly achieve that year on year, then this is $34. If it's 1%, then you can imagine it would be more like $6.85. The number goes down 1% of 685. So I'll talk about levers, but this is one of the levers. So then we go subscribers, web visitors. So if I go to the website and then I convert into a subscriber, I've clicked the subscribe now button on the blog, I've downloaded an ebook, I've taken an action, a contact us form, whatever it may be, 2% of all of my visitors become subscribers on average. I can see that through GA, Google Analytics, very easily. So if I can see that regularly it's 2%, then I can also value my website visitor logically, right? $34, 2% of that is 69 cents per visit. Wow. Okay, great. So this is what pivoting off the customer lifetime value number allows us to do. And then I go one step further and I value an ad impression. So if I know that from my ads, I have a 1% conversion from an impression into a website visitor, that's where I know I have a value of an impression. And that's also a bit of trackable data as well, which we'll talk about. So this is really the way we consider lifetime value as a key metric that you pivot around. And this allows you to understand your levers, but also the value of each of your up the funnel pieces of data. So this is super important because now when we're talking to our CFO, we've got a very different conversation happening. Instead of talking about our advertising budget, our media spend, instead of talking about that as an expense, we're now starting to talk about that as an investment into an asset. Because assuming that you are assuming that it's valuable, this data, that you use it, and we'll talk about how you use it and how you monetize it in a bit. Assuming it holds value, then we could argue that it's an asset. And in that case, we can also argue that if we can make revenue from it, then it's an operating asset, right? And that's really the key, is you've got to be able to make revenue from that data, and it's got to be predictable. When I say predictable, I don't mean AI, although that's awesome. I just mean that we've got to have a solid enough trend month on month that we're constantly able to achieve revenue, and that will give us the confidence to say, okay, this is a reliable revenue stream from this data. And I think the other key thing for me is, well, for the data as well, is you must have a safe place to store it. You don't put your money on the floor, or you don't put it in your laptop bag on a sheet, or store it in a disk drive and then throw it around. I mean, this is real value, right? And this is really important. So let's talk about that. Because the CFO's, assuming you got past the CFO, he's like, great, it's not an expense anymore. It's an asset now, this data. And your advertising spend is an investment in that data. So let's assume that you got past the CFO. This is the key point, in that it's really expensive to have a data breach. So if you don't do this, there's actually a bigger risk at play. So 2017, $2.51 million is the average data breach cost to a company in Australia. So, and I'm sure where I am at the size of my business, probably not that much, but it's still enough that it would probably ruin my business. It's not something I want to go through. Um, what was interesting, this was a study done by IBM. This is all the same study. So they said if it's a malicious or criminal attack, it has a higher cost per capita. So the per capita cost is referring to the per data record cost. So that's if you have 100,000 records in your database and it's because of a malicious criminal attack, those are all leaked, then it's 100,000 times $154. Do the math. It's a lot. 154 million, I think, is what it is. Wow, that's a lot. Is that right? Whatever it is, it's a lot of zeros. So I'll let you do the math on that. So the interesting thing, though, is that uh, it was highest with malicious or criminal attack and lowest with human error. And there were many reasons why there's a per capita cost. So it's not super black and white, but you could assume from this number perhaps people are more forgiving if there's a human error, but if it's a malicious attack, people expect you to have governance and security as a business. So that's the thing, is that having a platform that is secure is so important. Okay, so if you look at per industry, financial is the highest. So your banks, if they have a data breach, that's the highest. Services businesses like me, technology, me also, communications, me also. So somewhere in between, I'm here. Industrial, education, media, hospitality, public. Interestingly, public has the lowest per capita cost. Perhaps just because of the volume and scale of data, and also maybe because I don't know, you don't, it's just like, oops, if it's the government, whereas if it's a private corporation, someone has to be held accountable. I don't know. I'm not a politician. Okay, so how do you impact the cost of a data breach? So that per capita cost is really interesting because this is the same study. IBM identified the variables at play in that per capita cost. So if you have some of these items like an incident response team, then you have a higher per capita cost of data breach, right? Because you've implemented that. So every company has a per capita cost of a data breach based on some of these factors. Employee training, it's expensive. Chief Information Security Officer appointed, it increases the cost. But that's what we should do, right? We should all have a Chief Information Security Officer appointed if we're going to handle this data. The thing is, I mean, when I say if, we are handling the data. There's no question about this. If you don't have these things, you are at risk. Board level involvement, that increases the cost, but it's also really important that everyone's on board with the data importance. Some things that reduce the cost, consultants engaged, provision of ID protection, extensive cloud migration, extensive use of, so these things are seen to make it more efficient, the cost per capita data breach. I think, things like if you don't use mobile platforms, you've really got to rely on your staff using their mobile phones. And that's just a data breach waiting to happen. So yeah, really, really interesting. So that's how to calculate customer lifetime value. So remember, it's the frequency, the transaction amount, the tenure. Those three are our key ones that we multiply together, and then we minus our costs of acquisition, our costs of retention. Great. So how do we collect this first party data? Let's talk about some of these things. So there's a process of data collection. It's a journey. It's not black and white. So you can see here we've got Sammy on the left, and we can hardly see her. So as a brand, we might know, say a household brand, we might know that there's 2.1 billion households that know our brand, that are aware of us. Maybe we've got some statistics from some third-party market research company. Great, they've told us we're really popular, but we don't know who Sammy is. We can't talk to her. We don't know her name. We know nothing about her. So this is where we start to unearth people. And so I call it there's like a two-step process. So you go from unknown to being seen. So seen is where I'm allowed to see you, I'm aware of you, but I haven't got your permission to do anything. And you don't really know that I've seen you either. So that's the thing. And if you talk about how to see people, think about social listening. So if someone on social media talks about your brand, you see that if you listen. Social publishing is also another way where you get responses from people. And that's where you start to see their engagement with your brand or proactively reaching out to them. Advertising is another really great way to drive some engagement and some response so that you can start to see people. And even website visitor tracking. So if somebody goes to your website, just tracking them around and seeing where they're going and what they're up to, that's seeing them. But Sammy doesn't know it. So this is the key difference, is that we have data on Sammy, but she doesn't know that we have data on her. We have to be very, very respectful of her privacy and not do anything bad with that data or anything she wouldn't approve of. And certainly we shouldn't be talking to her unless it's on social, because that's okay in most cases. So moving from seen to known. So this is where known is where we have Sammy on speed dial. She trusts us enough to receive communications in phone, email, or SMS, or whatever channel she opts into us with. This is a great position for a brand to be, but often we're not there. So, and if you think about this from our funnel before that we talked about with the conversion levers, our unknown was we haven't touched you with advertising, we haven't seen you, we're just aware of you. That's not even in the chart. Seen is where they've come to our website, or they've been hit by an ad, or they've engaged with a social post or something. And known is finally when they become that subscriber after they go to the website and do their loyalty sign up, or they hit a landing page through an ad, or they download an ebook, or they sign up, or they download your mobile app. All of those things, they become known to us and we can talk to them and we have a direct relationship. We've got the trust of that customer to give them, for them to give us that data. And if you look at it, and I'm not gonna go through all of these because you may as well listen to Gary Vaynerchuk if you want this stuff. They're just digital marketing ideas. But if you look at all of the aspects of your marketing channels, there's always a way to drive leads and conversion, and even if it's just an impression or an interaction. So if you look at social and brainstorm all the different ways you can acquire customer data, obviously social lead ads are probably one of the most common go-tos with getting leads out of social. You can do it out of most social platforms. Facebook lead ads has a connector with Salesforce, so that's a really easy one. But yeah, social is a no-brainer. Social selling, proactive social engagement is another really key one, although it's often seen as a nice to have in a marketing mix. But for me, this one's a really hyper-personal way of touching all of your fans on social when they mention your brand. It's like a little reward. You show them some love. We should be doing more of that. That's a great way to get leads. Integrated marketing. So if you're running a lot of events, look to incorporate a sign up onto your digital channels in the event. It's a bit of a no-brainer, but if you're running an event and you're not capturing leads, then you're just wasting your time. Like, you shouldn't be running an event. It's just, you may as well not just, I can't say anything offensive really, but it would be silly, is what I'm saying, not to capture leads if you're running an event. Omni-channel, and trust me, I've run events before and not captured leads, so everyone does it. I've hosted, anyway, I won't go into detail. Omni-channel service, so providing amazing customer service to your 2.1 billion households is a great way to get to know them and to also turn unhappy customers into happy customers. It's a bare minimum in this day and age. So I highly recommend doing that as a source of first-party data capture for your marketing channels, right? So let's stop thinking about service being just the operations or the receptionist. No more receptionist. It's a marketing channel. She's your marketing manager now of that service channel. She, he, or anything. Sorry. So campaigns. Campaigns are a great way to drive signups, refer a friend, competitions, loyalty. Loyalty is a great way to drive signups. So that's great because all of your 2.1 billion customers, if they want to get benefits, they have to give you their data. So this is a value exchange. The value exchange is really the key to any of this. So if you do want that customer data, you've got to be willing to offer them something in return. Partnerships, working together with similar brands and cross-marketing to each other's audiences is a really great way. Just warning everyone to be very respectful. Do not sell your list. Do not gain a list illegally. Just don't do it. It's not cool by anyone. And if you get caught, it's really bad news for a lot of reasons. Your business reputation can be damaged. And that whole reputation thing is assumed in my whole value of data thing. If you have a bad reputation, you can't leverage the data because you're not allowed. Like channels block you because you're a dick is really the short way of saying it. Okay, so moving on. Value exchange. So that's the thing. If you want them to sign up for your blog as a subscriber, you've got to write a great blog that's worth them signing up. You can't just put content out because you think it's going to do well for your SEO. That's the thing. A community or a peer-to-peer forum is a great way of giving them a valuable asset where they won't mind giving you that data. Ebooks as well. Great. All right. So that's kind of it. But there's also website click tracking as well. And it sounds a bit scary, but it's really just making sure that you're tracking all of that anonymous data as well. Once you have got the permission of that customer to give you that information and has your consent, then with the right technology, you can link that anonymous browsing data back to that contact record. And that means that you just know so much more about that person as they become your subscribed customer. So it's nothing bad, but it's just the more that we know customers, the more we can service them with the right content and the right experience because it's relevant to them. Great. Okay. Here's a example of a journey where you've got Sammy, who's unknown. She has found a link shared by a friend. She goes to the blog. We've got Salesforce DMP. DMP is it's exactly what I was describing, where you track unknown visitors and kind of tag them and keep a track. So she skims a blog post. Sammy becomes seen. So that's where we have a track of her in the system. And then we may be able to target her or retarget her. And this is the same as a Facebook pixel, same banana. So we can target her based on that DMP audience with an ad to say, hey, you should win some juice. She goes to the competition page, she signs up, goes in the draw for an amazing prize, and in the process allows us to market to her. And that then she goes through journeys and campaigns for the brand, and hopefully we will be smart enough to use all of the information we know about her to target her with the relevant content and not spam her with stuff that's irrelevant. The other thing that we're doing in parallel, so now that Sammy is known, we can then target a lookalike of Sammy. So Facebook allows you to do lookalike audiences, and this is where we find many other unknown people that are similar to Sammy and take them through the same journey. So it's really amazing. I mean, you can see the power here where it's a constant cycle of lead acquisition just really based on getting to know Sammy and Sammy's preferences, and finding people that are similar to Sammy. So that's a really great method. Another really great method is through service acquisition. We've got Mustafa, who's unknown, makes a complaint, and then we pick that up in Social Studio. We hear about that, and the community manager escalates it to customer service, goes into their service cloud, their CRM. Customer service agent resolves the customer complaint. So just like a normal customer service ticket, Mustafa becomes known. And let's say he gives us a high net promoter score, and then suddenly he goes into campaigns and journeys, because we've taken a bad situation, we've resolved it, we've made him really happy, and then he's consented to be marketed to, and then we market to him with relevant content. So, here's just a couple of examples. There's so many out there. And this is how you can start to think about it. So this is like a life cycle. See, think, do, care. This is the Google recommended life cycle. So if you do the Google digital marketing course online, there's a really great one. I can't remember what exactly it's called, but they use this 4-step framework. See is I see the brand. Think is I'm going through a consideration period. Do, I will make a purchase. Care, I need help. I need attention. I need, etc., etc. Care. It's very obvious, right? So do is making the purchase. See and think is the sales, and care. So this is something, and obviously this life cycle is generic. The reason I like it is it's the most simple form. You can maybe make it 3 steps, but it'll be oversimplified. But most companies have about 5 or 6 stages in their life cycle. So I'd recommend that you go through this process and just write them down. Like, what do you currently do under this part C? Search, advertising, acquisition journey. What do you do under think? You have landing pages on products. You've got comparison sites, ratings and reviews, recommendations, retargeting, advertising, journeys, nurturing. Do is that purchase. Where is that purchase? In store, e-commerce, drop shippers, abandon cart around that purchase process right at the time. And then care, SMS chat, live chat, iMessage, Facebook Messenger, social listening for feedback on your product. There's so many things you can do throughout this life cycle. So this is something that you can take away is really what is your life cycle of your customer? And going back to our customer lifetime value, you may have multiple personas. So you may have you may have a B2C persona and a B2B persona. You may have 3 B2B personas and 2 B2B personas. Yeah, so anyway, just go through this process, current state, future state, and this is how you design your transformation. This is a diagram that I use for my clients. It's a CX architecture. On the right side, you see there's 2 customer personas, B2B retailer and B2C customer. On the left, sales, service, and marketing. These are our key departments. In the middle right is our channels. So they've got some extensive channels, and you can see that there's some annotation here. B2B sales up the top, dealing with the retailers, website, and all of the aspects of the website, service, and all of the different channels there, marketing channels, marketing automation channels, and then social as well. And then moving into the center, these are our systems, and they are contextually linked together in various ways. It's a little bit simple, but it also shows you how they work. So we've got Salesforce CRM, which has sales and service cloud, and then a few other little add-ons that sit inside the platform. Then we've got Marketing Cloud, which Marketing Cloud came from ExactTarget. There is an MC connector, which is a native connector between Salesforce CRM platform and Marketing Cloud. And then Social Studio, which was Radian 6 before. has a connector called Social Automate that helps it automate the flow of the social posts between Salesforce CRM and social. So this allows you to escalate leads and cases from social media. So it's really powerful. Anyway, what we've done here is identify some areas. You can see the green words with the targets is really where we're going to capture that first-party customer data. So you can see at the top, landing pages in your WordPress, done. That's a no-brainer. P2P forum, peer-to-peer forum or community. So this is a login portal, and this is where you'd use Community Cloud for that. And you could have so many different people logging into different portals, depending on your different personas and their needs. Website visitor tracking, that's the Salesforce DMP. That's a really great one. We've actually got surveys and NPS under form assembly here. Is another really great way to get that first-party data. Omni-channel service is the other way we've talked about, like inviting people, please, let me help you with your problems. I really, really want to. Wherever you are, please let me help you. It's a great way to capture information about that customer. And not to mention, it's a great way to resolve unhappy customer problems where they may not have talked to you before. So highly encourage everyone, just get their service game on this year. It's 2020. We're really there. And then finally, social listening and ads. This is another really great way to capture that customer data. So, as you put ads out there, you get response back. It's really the key game for digital marketing, and in terms of getting a response, getting an impact. Without advertising, things are fairly organic, so to speak. Another way, which is free, so if you can't afford to do advertising and to spend a lot of money, if you don't have a lot of money to do ads, you have to look at other ways. And social listening is a free way of doing that, where you can really listen and get so much valuable, rich data about consumers, just all for free online. It's just there. They do it for free. No one pays them to tweet about your brand, either happily or unhappily, but you've got the data there. So if it's unhappy, for me, it's valuable because you have to take that and learn from it and make sure any product feedback is addressed internally. Otherwise, you're blind and ignorant to what's being said about you in public. So, yeah, I don't know if I can emphasize that strongly enough. So that's how to collect data. Let's talk about conversion levers. So let's say you're getting the data. What do you do? How do you convert it? So going back to our funnel again, our ad impressions, and remember these 1%, 2%, 5%, these guys are our conversion levers. So, well, those are our conversion metrics. These are our levers on the right. So if I want to increase the amount of visitors, increase the amount of people going to my website from ads, I will do things like A/B testing to make sure my ads are performing well. I'll optimize my lookalike audiences. So I'll make sure the focus on only my best customers. I may target third-party audiences to see how I can gain benefit. If I'm a travel company, maybe I can target a travel-specific audience through a third-party platform. Maybe I'll suppress some of my ads that go out to my existing customers or my unhappy customers. If I suppress ads, it will also help me increase the performance of them. And then finally, like ad frequency capping is a great way of just being more focused on efficiency around your ad spend. So all of these things that you do will increase the percentage of people that go to your website from that ad impression. And again, and I won't go through all of these, website visitors to subscribers. So how do I increase the number of visitors that sign up? This is an age-old question. Again, Google Gary Vee or Google any of your modern-day digital marketers. Give awesome content, focus on CRO, conversion rate optimization, landing pages, pop-ups, customer service. Again, like just having chat and an easy way to contact them. Self-service as well is a great way to convert if they need to sign up for kind of premium content or gated content. And then subscribers to customers, how do I affect this percentage? So, and this is really where you're throwing out maybe real-time personalized offers. And this is a real strategy of the now. So if I've got a subscriber that shows me they are interested in one of my products on my page because they're visiting a lot, then I really want to hit them with a real-time personalized offer to say, hey, Jeff, would you like this? You've been looking at it. Just buy it. I'll give you a discount if you buy it right now. So that's a great way to convert. Obviously, it's kind of similar banana one-to-one advertising. So if I'm looking at a product, then advertise the product to me. If I've bought the product, then stop advertising it to me. If I've bought the product, then start advertising similar products to me. So all of these things are just clear strategies. You need to, this is the marketer's job to go through and come up with these solutions. Obviously, campaigns. Campaigns is one of the key ways. So this is me doing a promo back to school newsletter where I say, sign up or buy this product now and I'll give you a 20% back to school discount. Or it's Christmas and would you like to give your friend a gift of your product for the next year, whatever it is. It's really about being creative as a marketer, following best practices, doing your research. Great. And then customers, reduce churn. So this is the final metric. This is really what we're going to do to try to retain these customers for as long as possible. We want to have that tenure as long as possible. That's, remember, one of our key variables of the lifetime value equation. So how do we do this? We do surveys. We understand how happy they are. We listen, and we may re-engage them. Maybe sometimes they churn because we forget about them. So and there's a million other strategies. These are just some examples of things you can put into effect to affect these conversion metrics. Another kind of benefit, a side benefit of having all of this data is that your marketing spend is a lot more efficient. So if you think about your conversion rate, if you're doing a batch and blast, say a monthly newsletter type thing to all of your customers, you'd have a very low conversion rate on sales. However, if you do profile driven, persona driven, like we're talking about, so if you target your B2C customers as a persona, or maybe your B2C high spend or your B2C high frequency, low spend customers, so really driving it off that behavior driven is I haven't spent in 3 months. So really sending messages out to people based on their recent activity, if they have bought or if they haven't bought and what have they bought. And interaction driven is more real time. So they're interacting with your brand, they are using your mobile app, they're on your website looking at a product, and they're very much showing you their live behavior. Even on social media, you can automate understanding if someone has negative sentiment about your brand. So the data is all there, and it's all about us being more efficient. Obviously, if someone's angry on social, you don't want to advertise to them, or if someone has an open case with our customer service department. So the kicker with all of this information, this data, is that we actually become a lot more effective as marketers. So it's kind of culminative, if that's a word, culminating. All right, so those are our conversion levers. So if we understand our customer lifetime value and we collect that first party data, and then we focus on conversion levers so that it's efficient and we're getting more value from that data, how do we monetize it? So if you look at, this is a 4-step life cycle, again, slightly different to the Google one: acquire, onboard, grow, retain. This is the customer value or the revenue vertically. And then we can see here, this is a typical lifetime value curve where there's a lot of value when we acquire them, when they make their first purchase, but then after that they drop off and there's very little value. This is typical. So as an organization, you can use strategies to increase that lifetime value by increasing the spend after the first purchase. So, and going back to our concept of that customer lifetime value model where they make their first purchase of $50 and then a second purchase, then a third purchase, then they churn. So $150. This is what we're trying to do, is increase the purchase after that first purchase. So, and this is where if we have marketing automation and if we have a great experience for that customer, we can, as much as possible, automate and standardize and, make it consistent so all customers go through an amazing experience with your brand and continue to buy and buy more and buy more and buy more, is what you really want to do. So understanding the data is allowing you to act on it. And that's the thing, is if we're just kind of doing a lot of brand marketing out there, not really thinking about the customer after they buy, we're really missing the whole picture of the business. And we're just focusing on this part of the curve, which is it goes up and down based on our advertising spend or investment. Great. So when we're talking about ROI, we're looking at how are you going to use this data. Obviously, you have to assume that you've got a safe place to put it in a CRM. But there's even a value of that. So, this is one of our actual clients, and I'll just explain this sheet. This is an ROI calculation. On the left, we've got the projects, Social Studio, Salesforce CRM. And when I say 1.0, it's an iterative process. So I've got a second CRM 2.0 and a 3.0. As we iterate and evolve the use of the platform for the client over the next few years, we don't plan to do everything at once. But the CRM 1.0 is very basic. It's like, I just want a place to put my data, my accounts and contacts. That's the simple thing. So if I do that, I can actually expect an ROI saving from preventing a data breach. I can also expect to gain some value of having the data in a CRM that my staff use, because right now they're not putting that data anywhere, they're just keeping it in their notes. So as we go through, there's a formula. So there's an assumed formula based on assumptions, and there's a type. So you can either have a CRM saving or a CRM revenue. So, and this is the two types of ROI. Like the two types of monetization is either I'm going to save money or I'm going to make money out of this strategy, out of this project. And then I'm going to make money each year. So I'll make money in the first year, and then I'll make money in the second, the third. And usually what I do is I incrementally grow this over time because it should be more efficient as it goes. So if we look at this prevented data breach, it's kind of a bit uncanny. How does that save us $45,000 of money each year that we don't know that we have? Like, we weren't spending $45,000 on stuff before for data breach. So why is that a savings? Well, going back to our data breach issue, what if you do have it? So what's the chance that you do have a data breach, right? So if you do, it's $2.1 million, say, for example. So if you multiply the total amount, okay, we've got the formula here, data breach risk, the percentage that it's likely to happen, times the data breach consequence per compromised record. So this is the per capita, remember? So if we've got 100,000 that are compromised, and we've got, this is the per compromised record cost. So you've got total contacts 100,000, per compromised record cost is, say, $139, and then the data breach risk is the percentage that it's likely to happen. So if it's 0, and I believe I use 0.01% likely to happen based on this customer who had 3 million contact records. So that's really the CRM saving, is the fact that you don't have to pay that amount, and taking into consideration is not always going to happen. It may happen 0.01% of the time, but that's a very low, so anyway, this is how we consider monetization. Then you've got revenue. So again, looking at the revenue formula, new customer lead records per employee per month times the lead value. So this is what we said before. It's the same as the subscriber value. So if we have, every employee enters 10 leads per month, into the CRM that they now have access to instead of Excel or a note. And then we say that's $36 per lead times the total number of employees times 12 months. That's the amount of value that you can get from that customer data. However, so that one is like, oh, okay, wait, this one, okay, well, I don't have that money. And then this is really where you need monetization strategies. So if you look at the Marketing Cloud projects, the first one, email campaigns to database. So we're just putting a campaign out there regularly. So we say there's an email average offer acceptance value. So maybe we say the average purchase for this client is $200. Average campaign audience size. So maybe we send it out to 10,000 people, and maybe we do that 4 times per year. And then our average campaign offer acceptance is maybe 1%, or maybe that's our target. 1% offer acceptance on this $200 offer to 10,000 people 4 times a year, for example. So that's how you calculate the average ROI from campaign work as one project, as one strategy. And so, when we did this for our customer, it was actually a large amount, $1.5 million revenue per year. What they need to do to maintain that is to achieve that 4 campaigns per year to the same audience, well, or that higher. They have to have the same offer acceptance percentage or higher. So I hope this is starting to make sense. It's really about playing with these variables. This is how you get this ROI, this monetization. Welcome journey revenue, onboarding journey revenue, re-engagement journey revenue. So they all have an ROI calculation behind them, and each of them makes ROI. So, and this is not limited. There's no limit. So you can have, I've got 4 rows. In the actual spreadsheet, I've got another 50 rows of similar things, which are very clear, very established methods to achieve ROI with this technology. But I just can't emphasize this enough. If you don't do this, there's no value to the data. So if you're not making money off this data, there's no value to it. Or if you're not, well, the data breach is a tough one because any company is dealing with customer data. And if you don't have a safe place to put it, then you're reckless. And it should be, at the end. So I'd encourage you guys to look through, again, looking at our life cycle. The blue ones are revenue generating. The green ones are savings, revenue savings. So, having a more efficient customer service process is a revenue saving. Having suppression on advertising is a revenue saving. Having one-to-one advertising retargeting campaigns, that's revenue earning. If I can do that one-to-one really well, then that's a really great revenue earner. If I can do a abandoned cart, that makes me money, that makes cash. So just go through these strategies and think which ones make you money, which ones save you money. Then if you add them up, and this is actually an output of that sheet where we can start to look at the investment. So you've got the CapEx investment year by year as we go through these different projects. And then we've got our savings and our revenue. So this yellow line is revenue. So you can see that's actually very high and it gains. And the red line is the CRM savings. So this is like the cost of the data breach. And especially there's all sorts of assumptions around data growth here as well. That cost of a data breach gets higher and higher. So yeah, that's the end of today's webinar. Hope you got some value. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.